If you're curious on how to interpret an estimate that you got from your insurance company, stick around for the next few minutes because we're going to go through it so you can have an understanding of how to read and interpret one of these. Now, this scope is one that came from one of our homeowners, and I chose it because it's got a couple of different trades on it that we can kind of dive into and help make sure you've got a proper understanding of what it means to go through an insurance scope. Now, the first page here is typically just an introductory page. It's going to have a lot of different information on there. It's going to have contact information for your adjuster, for the claim representative. It's going to have your claim number, your policy information. One thing to pay attention to is the date of loss. Now, this page layout could be laid out different between different insurance companies, but all the information is going to be there regardless of what insurance company you have. That date of loss information is going to determine what price list the insurance company uses for your project, which leads us to kind of the next thing to pay attention to. You want to look at this price list field and make sure that it's concurrent with the date that you have. Now, anything newer than the date you had is awesome, but anything older, you want to reach back out to your claim representative and make sure that they update that to the most up-to-date pricing, because over the last couple of years, we've had price increase after price increase after price increase. And when that happens, insurance companies do elevate their prices to pay more based on what the market's dictating. But if you have an outdated price list, chances are your contractor's not going to get enough of the funds from the insurance company to do the type of job that needs to be done for you. Aside from that, that is basically the most important information that's going to be on the introductory page for you. Now, when we step onto the next page, and this particular scope, we jump right into the roofing section. Again, every insurance company lays out a scope of work differently, so it may vary depending on your insurance company, but again, all the same information is going to be there. Now, in this particular scope, as we go line item by line item, you're going to see remove 3-tab 25-year composition shingles. Now, this homeowner in particular had a 25-year 3-tab shingle, so that's why that line item is there, to remove that item or to remove those shingles. Then you're going to see the replace getting into the felt, the low slope felt, because as building code, if you're going to have a low slope section of a roof, if you're using 15-pound felt, you have to double it up. Now at Olympus Home, we use true synthetic felt no matter where we go. We don't use 15, 30. We don't use any of those like asphalt felts anymore. We've moved on to a synthetic underlayment. We don't charge the customers upgrade fees for that, but it is something to kind of pay attention to and make sure that your homeowner's doing. We had the remove 3-tab shingles, but as we jump into the replace 3-tab shingles, you'll see that the quantity is slightly different for the replace than it was for the remove. The reason being is because whatever shingles you're removing off the roof match the actual square count of the roof size. When it comes to replacing, there's something called waste factor that has to get lumped into there. When you're getting to the edge of shingles, when you're getting to valleys and things like that, you have to cut shingles to allow them to fit properly. That's where the waste factor comes in. And this insurance company, for instance, includes the starter course into that waste factor. So they build in a higher waste factor to account for the starter strip instead of leaving it on its own separate line item. As we continue to move down through here on line item 5, you're going to see like replace hip and ridge cap. These are your hip shingles and your ridge cap shingles. Now, if you've got metal ridge vent, they're not going to pay for that, but the hip shingles, which is where two sections of the roof come together like this, that seam of shingles that run up the top are your hip shingles. And we always do a shingle over style ridge vent, so those hip shingles also go on top of the ridge vent as well. But because this homeowner had metal ridge vent, they're not including it in there, which is perfectly fine. Then we're going to replace the continuous ridge vent. Again, this is aluminum, as you see on this scope here. We're not going to replace it with aluminum. We use the shingle over style ridge vent. We don't charge upgrades for that. It just goes back to our standard process of wanting to make sure that we install the highest quality roof we can and take the best care of homeowners we can. Then we go into the flashing for the pipe jacks. These are the pipe boots that you have on your roof. Then we move into drip edge, which is the border that goes around the eaves and the rakes of the property. This helps allow the shingles to hold a solid pattern and helps keep water from wrapping back up under those shingles and going in. Some insurance companies put this on the scope. Some insurance companies don't put this on the scope. If you do have ridge vent on your home now, they will always add it to your scope. If you don't have ridge vent, it may become a building code upgrade, which was what we're going to kind of show you a little bit later. Then we get into the remove additional charge for steep roof. Now, what this means is that if a roof is a higher pitch, meaning if it's steeper, they're going to pay extra for the labor cost of pulling it down. It costs more money to remove the shingle, so the insurance company pays more. Now, if this slope was not in the 7 to 12 range and was in the 11, 12 type slope range, then the payout is going to be a little bit higher on that. And then it's the same thing for replace. They're going to pay the extra labor cost to add those new shingles back on because it is a steeper roof. At the bottom of this, you're going to see that 16.4 number. That number is the total cost of what they're paying to replace the roof. And then as we move on to the next page, we're going to get into a few different trades, namely the interior of this home. Now, depending on your scope, you may also see some gutter work, some downspout work, some window screens, different things like that. In this particular case, we're just falling into the roof and the interior side. But if you do have gutter work, most times it is going to be broken down into its own section for the gutter work. And most likely, it's going to show you front elevation, meaning looking at the front of the house, right, back, and left elevations, depending on where those damages occur. In this situation, we're getting into the interior of the home. And you're going to see, again, it goes line item by line item, and it's pretty simple. To move out and to reset the contents, to mask and prep for paint, to scrape, all the different things that are included on the interior work of a home are going to be detailed here. And then so for this bedroom, you can see they're covering the 1800. As we move down into the kitchen area, you're going to see all the separate line items that are included in that. And then you're going to see the 14.7, which is the kitchen portion. When you total that up to the main level, that's the $3,300. And that is the interior portion of the home, as you can see on the bottom line item where it says dwelling interior. Again, scopes can be very intimidating to pay attention to as a homeowner. They can almost feel like it's difficult because there's so many numbers and so many line items on a piece of paper that it's hard to understand what you're actually getting. But if you break it down section by section, line item by line item, you can start to get a better understanding of what your insurance company is actually paying for. So then as we go on to the back page, the debris removal, this generally falls into interior or gutter type work. The $35.61 is the material cost to haul some of the material off. And then we get into the next page, which just gets into the separate code line items. These aren't actually items that they're including. It's just a breakdown summary presented in a different way than it was presented on the line item by line item portion of the estimate. We continue flipping through, and in this situation here, we get to the summary page. This is one of those where some insurance companies put this at the beginning of the scope and some insurance companies put it at the end of the scope. Makes no difference either way, the information is all going to be the same. You're going to see your line item total, the material sales tax, which gives you the replacement cost value of the home. Now, the way insurance companies work is they write an estimate for this replacement cost value. Then they apply depreciation to it depending on the age of the roof. So if it's a 30-year shingle and it's 15 years old, they're going to apply a 50% depreciation, meaning they're going to cut that replacement cost value in half. Now, most homeowners have recoverable depreciation. It is actually pretty rare to encounter a homeowner that doesn't have recoverable depreciation, unless they're in a situation where their roof is just ridiculously old. Insurance has deemed that it's very past the lifetime that it should have had. So they're going to drop the recoverable depreciation. In some cases on rental properties, the homeowner will not have, or the landowner will not have recoverable depreciation. But again, it's very insurance policy specific, but it is very rare, especially on somebody's primary residence, not to have recoverable depreciation. And what that means in this case, because the depreciation is recoverable, when the roofing contractor and the interior contractor finish the work and send the insurance company a letter of completion and the final invoice, the homeowner is going to receive another check, again, in this case for $9,892.36. But the way they break this down is they're going to take that replacement cost value, subtract out the depreciation, and your actual cash value is going to be that number that's left. They're going to reduce that by the deductible, and then they're going to get into the net claim. Now, this homeowner, we were actually into a re-inspect situation where the insurance company came out, approved some repairs, but not the full replacement. We asked for a reinspection, had the insurance company come back out. I submitted a ton of photos, a brittle test, and this allowed them to actually approve a full replacement instead of just repairs. This prior payment was a payment that the homeowner received for the repairs, but since we did the reinspection and got them to approve the whole roof, they're not going to pay for the repairs and the replacement, so they deduct that repair money out. It kind of confuses things a little bit, but I wanted you to understand the complexity of the scope, and then when you break it down, how simple it can actually become. So in this situation, the actual cash value minus the deductible and the prior payment that she had leaves the net claim remaining. That is the first check that she would get from the insurance company as far as the replacement goes. Then the total recoverable depreciation, when we finish the work, they're going to send her that additional payment of the $9,892.36, like we had previously talked about. And that's basically the summary page of what's going to go on. Now, as we flip to the next page, you see a building code upgrade fee. What this means is that it is up to building code. To get the home to building code, there are additional things that need to be done. In this case, it is the drip edge that needs to be added to the home to get it up to building code. In that situation, what the insurance company is saying with this summary for building codes is that they're not paying for this unless the contractor does it and submits it as part of the final invoice and letter of completion. When they have proof that the building code upgrade has been completed, in this case applying drip edge, then the remaining payment, that building code upgrade amount, will be included in that final payment. And that essentially kind of breaks this down. You get into the next pages, and we won't even put these up on the screen for you because they're just the measurements of this roof, and for privacy's sake, I don't want to put that out there, but they'll get down into showing you some of the measurements and how they got their calculations and everything from. And as simple as that, that's how you read a scope.